Join us each Saturday for the Justice is Here podcast, an innovative, revolutionary podcast that speaks to justice for all party members across America. We'll speak to leadership, we'll speak to activists, and most of all, we want to hear your opinion. So if you're tired of the two-party system and how it doesn't work for you, tune into this podcast to learn how we can take back the justice that we deserve. Thank you. Okay, we are here, everybody. Welcome to the eighth episode of the Justice is Here podcast. Before I let my guest introduce himself, he's been here, 25 times, but he's back again, but we're going to talk about something specific tonight. I was hoping your cohort could join us, but he's not going to be able to, but that's okay. We're still going to have a great discussion. We have a ton of bills to pay. Let's get to those and let's get to the show. First of all, visit the Justice is Here website. Justice is Here, the Justice for All party website at justiceforall.us. That is justiceforall.us. Again, visit the Justice for All parties website at justiceforall.us. Remember to subscribe. I'm up to 358. I cannot believe I'm up to 358. I thought I was still stuck at 354, but we're getting closer to that 1,000 goal that I have set. So please subscribe. Subscribing literally costs you nothing. Remember, you can follow the Justice is Here podcast on TikTok, and that's noted for when I finally learn how to use TikTok. But I promise I'm getting close to posting something on TikTok. Follow the Justice is Here podcast on Blue Sky. Follow the Justice is Here podcast on Instagram. And also remember, Justice for All. I have a Team Tracy for Justice for All. Our goal is to raise $25,000. We are getting closer to that goal, but your contribution between $5,000 to $5,000 helps us to reach that goal of $25,000. You can link there to go to the Team Tracy for Justice for All. It's also in the description section. Help us to get 35 likes and 15 shares. Share this podcast to your friends, your family, that one cousin that you don't talk to. Share it to everybody that you know. Remember to comment on tonight's podcast, whether it's now or later on. Rue, by the way, MC has already checked in. Hit that like on the way in. Certainly, please do. We're going to stop this with this Tracy 2026 thing. It's not happening. This is what I prefer to happen, Paris 2026. I prefer that than opposed to Tracy 2026. So, and also one more announcement. The Saturday Hangout is going on tonight. It is finally March 22nd. We got 9 people registered for tonight's meeting where we're going to discuss, debate, and organize. That's going to be right after this podcast. You should, if you register, have that link. Come on in the room. We're going to do some organizing. We're going to take back what is ours. We're not here to play games, so join us there. And I do have one announcement that I'm going to make, but it will be towards the end of the show. So stay tuned for that. Paris, how are you doing?
I am doing good, Tracy. Thank you. How are you?
I can barely hear you.
You can barely hear me?
Okay, let me turn up my sound.
Okay. I have mine all the way up. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you perfectly fine. Okay, so you know how I've been doing these Justice for All meetings. I've been kind of talking about originally how we started off on supporting Dr. West, and then we now build into building a party. I'm going to skip that because we already know why you support Dr. West. So I'm just going to get right to um, talk about your role on the committee work, the not steering committee, the organizing committee. I forget what we're actually called. So you could tell me all of that because I literally like we're called the something something committee.
Yes, you had it right the first time. We are the steering committee, the National Steering Committee for the Justice for All Party. And of course, our responsibility in that particular setting is to seat committee members. And we made a decision as late as tonight, the number of committee members that will be seated. So they're all seated. We do invite guests if you want to pop in and listen to the conversation, what we talk about. It's public, it is informative, and the responsibility overall of the Justice for All Steering Committee is to develop and hand over the responsibility to the National Committee for Justice for All.
And remember, everybody, we talked about this last week or the week before. No, we talked about it when Mike was on. To be federally recognized as a party, we have to run at least 14 people. No, five. Thank you for the correction. Five people for federal office. So here's my plea. Even though Lord knows I have no business running for office, I know there are five wonderful people that support Justice for All and are willing to run for office. Make sure you contact Justice for Justice is Justice for All Party. I'm going to stop getting the names of the podcast and the party confused because we need to start organizing. 2026 is so much closer. Like when Dr. West lost last year. Oh, wait a minute. There's a correction. We need 12 people in 5 states. That's correct. So it's 12 people, 5 states. It's 12 people out there that support the Justice for All Party. That's all I'm going to say on that. But 2026 it's here, even though I know it's March. It's March, blah, blah. It's early. I'm of the vein, and Piers, you can, if whether you agree, disagree, you can let me know. I'm not a person that believes in planning at the last minute. And I think that's the trap that a lot of third parties run into.
That's why we're planning as early as right now. We understand the sense of urgency. We've been meeting as a steering committee for several weeks, if not a couple of months already. We've developed several policies or motions that have been adopted into the National Committee. So when the National Committee takes over, they'll already have some form and structure of what it will look like, how it will run, how the votes will be cast. Pretty much now we're talking about what kind of representation do we want to have at the National Committee. We talked about 2 people in every state. We also talked about states that don't have representation, how they can be represented in a regional sense. We talked about breaking it down to segmented areas, like protected statuses, whether it's race, creed, color, things of that nature. So we really want to make sure that all voices who are feeling an absolute need to change how policy, how candidates are chosen, how they're elected, how they are either represented or they lack representation of their constituency. We want all voices at the table. We want to make sure that you're heard. Whatever marginalized group you might belong to, this party is your party. I know I listened to a couple of podcasts, and Tracy, you echoed this sentiment that everything you held dear as far as politics are concerned, as far as social um, uplift is concerned, as far as outreach to humanity and ameliorating the lives of those who live around us in community and the world, is outlined in the platform that was Cornel West for President 2024. What we're trying to make sure we do is bring a lot of those platforms over to the Justice for All party and make sure that, again, we are representative of the people, the people, as Lincoln talked about in the Gettysburg Address, for the people, of the people, for the people, by the people, of the people. It's about the people. It's not about the representatives. It's not about corporate America. It's not about private equity firms. It's not about big pharma. It's about us. We're the ones who should be making a difference. Our voices should carry the day. And unless we're willing to stand behind, we're willing to gird ourselves up, willing to protest, willing to insist that they listen to us, they really have no reason to hear what we have to say or what we want to, what kind of representation we would like them to have when they go to Congress, when they go to Senate, or in any other capacity as a politician.
I do see a question by Jason I want you to address. What's the point, though? If we can't organize a base, what does being recognized as a party matter?
Now, when you say we can't organize a base, again, that's what we are doing right now. We can organize. As a matter of fact, Jason, we would welcome you to be a part of this organization. We would welcome you to be part of what this structure will look like. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not expeditious, right? We're not going to look to heretically establish it. We want to make sure that we do it consciously, thoughtfully, and epistemically. So there will be some back and forth, but everybody knows democracy is ugly, right? Democracy is worth having a conversation, a diatribe about. And just because we don't always agree doesn't mean we have to be disagreeable. We have had points of contentions, but we talked about tonight how much we respect each other's opinions, ideas, and even though we don't necessarily agree 1000%, how we go about comporting ourselves with decorum and aplomb is what's of major importance. So again, Jason, I would welcome you to be a part of this so that we can be recognized. It's very important. And I believe that comes from a sense of maybe disenfranchisement, that you felt maybe your voice wasn't heard. You didn't see your representation at a local level, at a federal level, whatever that might be. Trust me, I felt the same way at one time. When I registered as an independent, I mean, years ago, I didn't have a party affiliation. And then when Dr. West announced his candidacy, and Tracy talked about this earlier, that's when I decided, you know what? I'm going to throw in my hat. I'm going to do all I can do to help him formally not only announce his candidacy, but run for president of the United States of America. And we here locally, we had a lot of work we had to do in Indiana, and we did that work. It didn't materialize into him getting on the campaign or winning, but we did establish a foundation that we can continue to build on in 2025 and beyond. So again, I can't emphasize enough how important it is for people like you to be a part of. It's easy to sit back because I've been an armchair quarterback, right? I've talked about why and how, and if it was my decision, what kinds of things would be implemented. But when there's a group who may not have the same sentiments that I share, how do we collaborate? How do we coalesce our efforts, our ideas, our thoughts, and how are we represented as a whole? That's what we're doing as we speak right now. So yeah, we can do it. It's happening as we speak, and it's a thing to behold when it actually moves down that continuum, and you can consider some progress.
Thank you very much. He also follows up with saying in North Carolina, we had 10 volunteers busting our butts. We spent like $1,000. Oh, I watched as we got 10,000 signatures from Trump rallies, and only 10% that supporters were never met to our webs.
10,000.
Cousin Nelson checked in. We need to definitely, this is where I say, we need to definitely get things moving forward because I'm sick of watching those hypocrite fraud. See, again, this is why Nelson is my play cousin, right? Because he says exactly, like he says what I'm thinking, like what's in my brain. And then he perfects it, like he makes it make sense. This is what I am going to talk about next, if I remember. So we definitely need to get things moving forward because I'm sick and tired of watching those hypocrites and frauds, i.e. Bernie Sanders and AOC, faking their champion for the people in large rallies. Hating but putting money towards getting on ballots and legal fees won't matter if we do not have only a few hundred real supporters. I think we have hundreds of thousands of supporters, but hey, that's just me talking. And Jason, thanks you for your response and wishes us luck. But Jason, as Perry said, your participation is better than your wishes for good luck. But don't drop off though. I got to talk about this Bernie tour because it's gonna play. I'm gonna make a statement. It's gonna sound like a statement, but I'm really trying to get Paris's thoughts on this. First of all, I'm going to keep calling him Sellout Sanders. That's my name for him. That's what I'm going to call him. He, AOC, and others are doing this tour about, we got to, defeat the oligarchy. My contention is, dude, the Democrats are a part of the oligarchy. How many billionaire donors did the Harris campaign have? She had more billionaire support than Trump had. Matter of fact, she wasted, and I say wasted, $2 billion. She literally raised 2 to 3 times more than Trump, and she not president. I think that Bernie's doing this tour to get people back in the Democratic Party. That's what I think, because he's not talking about, hey, let's ditch the two-party system, which is what he's thinking, which is where he should be heading for since i.e. he's independent. But it's like he's trying to draw people back into this party that I personally don't feel like the Democrat Party can be redeemed. But that's just me. I let you offer your response.
I think we're in agreement when we say that the Democratic Party is irredeemable. They're indefensible right now. The lack of response that was commensurate to the MAGA movement is insulting, it's offensive, it's unacceptable, right? And I think I said heretic, I meant heuristically. In other words, we don't rush to decisions. We want to make sure that all of our decisions are made correctly. And that's based on something I said earlier. Anyway, I'm not as critical to Bernie and Kamala as you are. I just believe Kamala wasn't going to win regardless. I take a historical perspective when it comes to candidacy, when it comes to African American women, people of color. There's nothing she could have done to win this election. She was not going to win. I believe that it was rigged. There's some question about, tampering with the votes. We do know that there's such a thing as voter suppression. In 2013, I believe it was, when the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act, they made it possible for these states, right? These purple states, some blue states, especially red states, to pick and choose who's going to vote for their candidate, not who the candidate is based on the voters. Conversely, who the voters are based on the candidate. And I do believe there was a lot of voter suppression. And my issue with the Democratic Party is that they sat by and watched that happen. And to me, that's more complicity than anything else. Does it evolve or devolve into duplicity? Absolutely. That's my commentary when it comes to Kamala and the Democratic Party. I just believe there's no way, first of all, there's no way a woman was going to win, right, Hillary? Then there's no way a black woman was going to win the presidency of the United States of America. It just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, we're about to disagree. This is where I disagree with you.
And that's okay. We can diatribe. We can disagree without being disagreeable again. But based on history, that's what I'm making my assertion on, is historical facts. When you look at our history, I don't know if you've ever read the book by Dr. Carol Anderson. I think I've quoted this book before. White Rage. White Rage is the book. She gives us a prescriptive of every single time there seems to be some African American progress in this country. White rage deconstructs, white rage eviscerates, white rage tears it apart. And she talks about all the way from the Civil War, right? And we know right now that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments are being deconstructed by these executive orders issued by Donald Trump, right? Birthright citizenship. If we think that's just about immigrant status, we need to think again. We need to think again. That amendment was written for our citizenry specifically. Now, it enfranchised immigrants and all those who came in after we were here, but that amendment was written for African Americans specifically. They're trying to eviscerate that. We know that the 13th Amendment always had a slavery clause written in it, right? There is the abolishment of slavery for the exception of prison, or if you go to, jail, you lose all rights. And again, you are de facto a slave. So we know that the voting rights, which was the 15th Amendment, has been gutted. We had to fight for it, and it took almost another 100 years to realize it in 1965. And now, 2013, that's been gutted. So when you go back and you look historically, I mean, I can name and cite, right? For one, when we look at affirmative action, why was affirmative action? It wasn't perfect, not by any stretch of the imagination. Affirmative action was flawed, but affirmative action spoke to the lack of representation in corporate America, in politics, and in every other industry across horizontal lines. And what affirmative action was intended to do was level the playing field, right? The playing field was never leveled before affirmative action, during affirmative action, and now post affirmative action. When you look again, and we've talked about this before, when you look at all the statistics, whether they're salubrious and healthy statistics, or they're insalubrious or they're unhealthy, African Americans are at the bottom of healthy statistics across the board, whether it's health, whether it's unemployment, joblessness, whether it's houselessness, whether it's home ownership, regardless of what it is, we're at the bottom. Conversely, when you look at every negative or insalubrious statistic, we're at the very top across the board. Now, we don't show up quantitatively, because we know we are not quantitatively represented in America. We're what, 13%, but we are represented disproportionately, and we show up disproportionately. So affirmative action was supposed to address that, not fix it. It was never going to fix it based on how it was written, right? But it was supposed to address it, and in some respects it did. It allowed us college entry. We know as soon as it was struck down, applications to legacy universities like Harvard, Stanford, across the board, saw a serious decline, a precipitous decline in African American enrollment. So we know it had significant impacts on us, and it did, and had the desired results.
Yes, but here's where I'm going to interject and say where you say a woman can't be elected president.
Right.
Morgan, you too are reading my mind. It's not that we don't want a woman president. I have talked to Republicans. Now, I don't have money to do surveys, but I've talked to Republican friends of mine, Democrat friends of mine, independent. We all want a woman president. We all felt like, you know what, it's past time. Here's what did Kamala in. Number one, and this is according to surveys, not just Tracy spouting off opinion. Number one problem she had, genocide. They specifically asked her, hey, you know, are you going to continue to support Israel with weapons? Or are you going to differentiate from the campaign? She, who ran on a candidacy of change, said, no, I'm not going to change anything. Excuse you, no. She could have, and I am not saying lying is good. I'm not. It is a sin to lie. Listen to my words. She's a politician. She could have lied and said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cut funding. If she had said that, look how many people didn't even get off the couch. It's like, you know what? This couch looks good to me. I think there's like a count of 95 million people said, you know what? I'm not going to do it. And then you had another problem of Democratic voters, people who would vote Democrat, said, well, I'm not showing up. So they didn't even show up for her. Not because she's a terrible candidate, which I think she is, but this portion, her support of Israel was the number one problem she had. Trump's support of Israel is the number one problem he has, which is why I voted for Dr. West, because my conscience was saying, I'm not going to be for this genocide. That was her number one problem. It wasn't she being black or she being a woman, because we had a black president. His name is Barack Obama. We didn't have a woman president because they ran two bad women candidates. Hillary was a terrible candidate. Terrible. First of all, she robbed Bernie of the nomination that should have been his. Now, I'm going to call them sellout Sanders all I want to, but that nomination was his in 2016, period. And they said, oh, no, we're not going to do this. Then they ran Kamala, because they get real smart about how you say her name, but I don't feel like I got to say your name right. When you guilty of killing 40,000 Palestinians, I don't really have to say your name right. I don't have to get your name right. Because you don't deserve that respect. I don't know. She never gave me a reason to vote for her. And that's my problem with the Democrats. They whine about, and AOC did this because you talk about Bernie irking my nerves. AOC really irks my nerves. She's like, well, Jill Stein, and we're not here supporting the Green Party, but Jill Stein is a third party candidate. She's taking away our votes. Well, first of all, votes don't belong to you. Votes are to be earned with policy and how you're going to run things. They don't belong to you, but because the Democratic Party is entitled and they think, oh, black votes are ours and women votes are ours and Asian vote is ours, they got, to me, just what they were going to expect. You run on bad policies, they messed around and found out. And I'm going to agree with another point you said. They're literally just sitting here watching Republicans do what they want. Look at Chuck Schumer. and the other 9 Democrats that voted for this not to shut the government down. Let it shut down. I mean, that's an option. It's like, oh, but it would have been work. No, you're literally just sitting here like just watch it go. So that's where I think we agree when I'm saying, hey, Democrats, stop watching bad stuff happen. But my point is, again, we never said we didn't want a woman to be president. We just want the right woman to, not white, right, RIGHT woman to be. We don't want her taking political contributions from PACs. We don't want her to be basically a slave to the APACs, Big Pharma, all those people. We want her to be against genocide. We want her to be for economically empowering Americans. So we want the right candidate, which I think is going to come from the Justice for All Party, not just this formative Uncle Tom-ish thing that Obama was doing. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, and again, you said a whole lot, so I want to make sure I address some of the points you made. I don't know if I can cover them all, but getting back to why you said Kamala lost based on the feedback, people who made it about genocide and voted for Donald Trump were just disingenuous. Donald Trump showed you who he was when he was in president and he moved the embassy. We knew who he was. He was a Zionist. He was going to protect Zionism. For anybody to tell me that they didn't vote for Kamala because she's a genocidist, but yet you voted for Trump, I just have a problem with how genuine your sentiments are. There's just no way that holds up. Now we see what Trump is doing, right? He was going to stop the siege in Gaza. Well, Netanyahu picked it back up, and he is going after and eviscerating that entire community, continuing his genocide, right? Then we talked about women. Let me share with you, Tracy. There's this thing called the soft bigotry of low expectations. And the reason I say that is because we want a specific kind of woman, a specific way, and we hold her to these specific expectations. But white men can be anything they want to be, including a 34-count felon, including a rapist found guilty in civil court, and then found guilty again of fraud in New York, and was up on trial a couple of more times for the president, the documentation issue that he was covering up. But yet this guy can be president a second time. We can't get a woman who meets some of those criteria, who isn't as horrific as Donald Trump, as Bill Clinton, right? Bill Clinton went into the White House with a reputation. All he did was uphold that reputation. Then you talked about Obama. Yeah, we had an African American. No, we had a Manchurian candidate. Fanon talked about it in his book, The Wretched of the Earth, right? He was the ideal candidate constructed by a certain Eurocentric ideology. He was taught the Queen's language. Then he was unleashed on his own people to speak for and become a mouthpiece or a mega piece for the king. And that's why Obama was an ideal candidate. He looked the part, he was tall, he was dark, he was handsome, right? And when you read about historically why people like him are favored, there's no question as to why Obama and not Kamala. Remember, women in this country didn't even receive enfranchisement until 1920. African-American men received enfranchisement first. And that was in written and ensconced in the Constitution. Women didn't get it until almost, 80 years later. So there is a difference between Kamala and Obama. You cannot put those two together and say, well, look at him and look at her. Kamala was not going to win regardless. And again, I can bring out so many statistics that it will overwhelm, right, any listener, but it will help you understand who we are as a country. And until we're really to embrace who we are as a country, how we were founded, right? The book, and I quote this often, by Dr. Cornel West, tells us what this country is all about. When in his book, Race Matters, the major overarching thesis is race is the most intractable issue in this country. Always was, always will be. Frederick Douglass had to fight, right, for his humanity, confronting a room full of his peers, including President Lincoln, how he went in on the 4th of July address, but he did it on the 5th of July because he refused to acknowledge and celebrate the 4th of July because it wasn't our holiday. We didn't receive independence. You received independence. We were still enslaved, right? We didn't have our rights, whether it was human, civil, we didn't have any rights at all. So my point again is, historically, when you look at what's happening and what has happened in this country, and we would rather choose someone who embraces white supremacy ideas, quotes out of Mein Kampf, right, when he says immigrants are poisoning the blood of this country, will quote Mussolini, will embrace Kim Jong-un as his friend, will capitulate to Putin, right? And will never dissent from Putin, will never have any constructive criticism towards Putin, but will tell us what a great leader he is and how well he controls his country. What do they share in common? So you got to look at all that. And when you begin to understand, there was no way Kamala was going to win. Kamala had energy. Kamala had motivation from the constituency. And again, I'm not a Kamala fan. Trust me. I am not a Democratic fan. I'm just looking at the facts. I'm looking at the truth of who we were. Like you, I worked on the Cornel West presidential campaign for a reason. But I also understand truth when I see it. I'm an epistemologist.
Yep.
I don't try to find evidence to fit my ideology. I try to find evidence. And if it changes my ideology, so be it.
Yep, we got a bunch of comments in. Sure. You guys keep them coming. I'm just going to fly through this because I want to get to our next topic of discussion. Many Arab Americans voted for Trump out of desperation. They didn't vote for Harris because she was for sure genocide. They wanted Steiner West, but also knew as November came that they wouldn't win. Although I would have said, because hey, I live in Indiana. Really, I know Trump's gonna carry Indiana. Might as well just go ahead and drop for it. But
absolutely, FAFO, right? They messed around and they're finding out. Yeah, we knew who Trump was.
Now, Paris is the point. I'm just flying through these because I want
to. Okay, go ahead. You keep going. I'm just saying we knew who Trump was. If you wanted to put a false hope into Donald Trump and his candidacy, you know what? You did it knowing better. That was a blind hope, and we know what blind hope does for you. You're now messing around and you're finding out. Go ahead.
Yeah. Kamala lost the black vote, especially after she faked her blackness with her washing in her collard greens in the bathtub and not having the proper ingredients.
Kamala won 92% of the black women, 80% of the black men. Kamala won the majority of the black vote. So please stop with all this nonsensical rhetoric and come up with facts. Show us facts.
I got other comments.
Go ahead.
Put yourself on mute.
Go ahead. You want me to put it on mute?
Yes.
On mute.
Because I want to get to these comments.
Okay.
But she did. I still want to know who the heck washing their collard greens in bathtubs. That's nasty. But anyway, next one. Okay, I left and unsubscribed, so guess I'm down to 357. But this dude called me an armchair quarterback. I spent 30 hours a week on top of 50 hours at my job. I served as an officer, and that's the recognition I get. I sound petty, but whatever. No comment, please, Pierce. But you can have
comment. That was a direct
comment. Yeah, that was a direct
one.
one. Make it quick.
I need to respond to that. And what I said is I used to be an armchair quarterback. I used to sit back and make commentary and criticize and make social commentary on those who were doing the work. I worked alongside of you, long hours. And again, that's by design. They want us so preoccupied with our job that we don't have time to know what was going on around us. Steve Bannon talked about muzzle velocity. They are going to throw so many things at us, we can't keep up. Muzzle velocity speaks to how fast a bullet leaves the chamber of a gun. And they are shooting and firing at us so often, so frequently, and so fast, we can't wrap our minds around. And yes, I applaud you for the efforts you've expended, but I'm also going to say you can't sit back and armchair quarterback this thing. I get it. You're working 50 hours a week, but you can either join us or at least help us, assist us, give us some ideas, some of your thoughts, so we can consider them as we're constructing the steering committee and the national committee.
Now back on mute, please.
All right, I'm checking out.
Okay, so yes, Obama is a Manchurian candidate, and yes, the rulers won't make a woman a Manchurian candidate until they do remember Margaret Thatcher, who led England. I mean, other countries have had women leaders and have done quite well, but hey, it's America. Toby, hey Tobias, how you doing? Morgan says, for many Arab Americans, Trump was better than Harris, according to surveys. Remember how Harris disrespected Arab American Dems at the convention? She didn't even let Dr. Barber speak, but hey, that's just me. England did
mute.
Okay, no, I want to get to the next topic. We've been at 42 minutes and we haven't gotten into this. England did what America will do, the same program, different from declining empire. We will get a woman Manchurian candidate, and it won't be Harris because she is not talented. See, I actually agree with that. I don't think she's talented at all, but that's just my opinion. She also disrespected all Democrats who supported the right of Palestine to live everywhere, including her own native land. Yeah, Trump is awful, and IMO Harris is Biden. Biden. Disrespect. I knew that's what you meant. I think it's a shame that many Black Americans voted for a pro-apartheid candidate, especially a brown female one. Just my opinion. So we're finally, now you can take yourself off mute. I got to those comments. So now we're moving to the next thing. You pretty much brought up something that I think it's going to be a challenge for any new party that's starting. And I want to talk about this because I've asked every guest this so far. You have and I'm talking to parties of the left of the Uniparty. You have the Green Party, you have the PSL Party, you have the Libertarian Party, you have the Constitutional Party, you have the Unicorn Party, you have the Socialist Party, you have all these third parties out there. What do you think, or what do you believe makes the Justice for All Party different from everyone else? And another contention, why not work with those parties instead of this track of establishing our own party?
And it goes back to a comment I made earlier when I quoted Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. We're about for, of, and by the people. It's about the people, right? We have as a central motif those who have been disenfranchised, those who have been marginalized, those voices who have been suppressed, those individuals and communities that have been oppressed, right? We don't take money from corporate PACs. We don't take money from billionaires. We are literally a grounds up campaign. Well, a grounds up movement, I should say. We're not just a campaign. We're not just a moment. We're a movement, right? We understand that there is posterity and life in this that will supersede anything else we're doing today. This hopefully will outlive all of us. So the difference between all those other parties, we start on the chocolate side of town. That's Dr. West's legacy. That's what he makes sure we start with. We don't stay there. We include everyone else who, again, has been marginalized, who has been mitigated, who feels like their voices are suffering, right, from silence because of all of the autocrats and the oligarchs and the plutocrats around us. We understand that there's an absolute need for people to have an option to a job with a living wage, right? A decent job with a living wage. And we're not talking about minimum wage. We're not talking about $15 an hour. We're not talking about $20 an hour in some states, right? California, $20 won't get you anything. Colorado, Hawaii, New York, those places, $20 won't get you anything. It has to be commensurate to the state you live in. And the minimum wage hasn't been raised since 2008, right? And
I thought it was 2003, but you're probably right.
2008, and we live in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, but yet we keep people impoverished, and we make them more impoverished, right? And all you have to do is look at some of the executive orders that Trump is issuing. So we understand the plight, and we want to hear more from the people who are suffering, because our heart goes out to you. A lot of us on the campaign, working for the campaign, are those individuals we embody, right? Dr. West understands, and he has always made that part of his thesis. That's why when he announced his candidacy, I immediately joined him. And ever since, he has been a candidate, right? He has stuck to, he has not changed. So he has a level of ethics that I can agree with, and public celebrity has not changed who he was, right? When he became a politician, diplomacy didn't rule the day. Honesty ruled the day. Truth, justice, that's what ruled the day. And love, right? That's what the campaign's three pillars are: truth, justice, and love. They dictated who we are, how we move, who we include. And again, we're inclusive. We don't have exclusivity. We're not talking about just middle America, right? The flyover country. We're not talking about just those individuals. Even though we're inclusive of those individuals, we want to make sure that we represent all the people all the time, especially those who are marginalized.
Shameless plug. Remember, I have a fundraising team called Team Tracy for Justice for All. The goal is to raise $25,000 because elections are not free. Political work is not free. Your contribution of $5,000 to $5,000 is appreciative. We have so far, we're going to have 4 because I finally got my donation is in. So, anybody that supports the Justice for All party is welcome to join that campaign. And I want to get to something that I want people to always do to Justice for All party members and supporters, is to hold us accountable, right?
Absolutely. Please.
Anybody that watched the Trump State of the Union saw Congressman Al Green get kicked out of Congress. I literally only had one question about that. Where was he when Biden was cutting Medicaid? He didn't say anything. He didn't protest. That administration literally threw up to 10 million people at minimum off of Medicaid. You weren't saying anything. You said no thing when Biden was doing it. But now it's the opposite team, and I'm supposed to believe you. I don't want Justice for All party to fall into that trap. Only speaking when it's the other team, and when our team gets into office, and trust and believe we will get into office. I don't want us to be, oh, well, that's okay. They're justice for all. So they could be for plagiarism. I'm just picking a random issue. Or they could be for genocide. Oh, it's okay because they're justice for all. I want us to be held accountable. You may talk now.
You're absolutely right. We don't want to be an echo chamber where we just reflect our own ideas and we bounce them off of one another. As I shared before, and I'll say it again, we want to be reflective of the people, right? Those who absolutely need, who suffer, who have been, demonized, castigated, deracinated. We want you to understand that we care and we can't be an us, you. We don't want to just be your representatives. We want to be you. We want you to be a part of this movement. We again are inclusive and we invite you in to have a voice.
Nelson's asking a question I don't know the answer to. What is the Truth, Justice, and Love Party stance on removal of the FICA cap to save Social Security and incoming cuts?
The FICA cap to save Social Security? Now, I don't even think we've addressed that.
I think we're leaving that for the national committee to decide.
Yeah, right? We haven't. I don't want to speak on behalf of the campaign or the party because we have not addressed that as of yet. We understand what's going on with Social Security right now. We understand how it's trying to be dismantled. We also understand that they don't have a right to touch it. It's not theirs. It's not an entitlement. We pay into that. Our checks from the time we start working pay for our Social Security. So that way we'll have some monicum, right, of a safety net when we retire. That's what.
Pierce, I'm gonna stop you one little bit. You got to watch my video I just did with Steve Grumbine about monetary theory, modern monetary theory.
Monetary theory.
Modern monetary theory.
Modern monetary theory. All I'm just saying is we paid into Social Security.
Yeah, he talks about specifically how we actually don't pay into it. So I'm just plugging one of my own videos. It's one of the ones that's got a lot of views. Go back and watch it because I think we should definitely save Social Security. We don't need anybody cut off of it, but we quite don't pay for it the way you're thinking. But again, I'm plugging my own videos because now I only have 357 subscribers, not the 358 that I started off with, but just watch it.
I'd be curious to see what his narrative is. But again, everyone knows where the money from Social Security comes from, right? It isn't just some form of sophistry. It isn't magical. It just doesn't appear, right? And then it's been stipend for a specific reason.
Again, watch the video. You'll get a whole lot out of it. Trust me, you will. Rude Byway MC says partly absolutely supports more taxes on the rich, like the removal of the FICA cap, but not specific to party policy, not yet, because again, we're not to that point. Right now, big income is not taxed for Social Security. Only the first 100,000 or so earned annually gets taxed. So if you earn $1 million, only the first 100,000 is taxed for dollars. Now, that's another point. But here comes the other point I want to make specifically about the Justice for All Party. 2026, I keep saying it, is literally around the corner. Here come the midterms. They're coming. I contend that the Democrats are just sitting around hoping things get bad enough that so people be so enraged that they'll go to vote for them in the midterms. I don't think they're going to change any of their policy stance. I think they're going to take APAC money. I think they're going to do everything that they're doing or that they did in the presidential election. They're just going to continue. I mean, literally, their new party chair said there's a such thing as good billionaires. Like, don't know where that came from. I think they're waiting. They're hoping things get bad enough that people will just come out and vote Democrat. How do we combat that? What type of argument would you make to vote for any generic justice for all candidate over John Q. vote blue no matter who Democratic Party candidate?
You're asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the difference is, number one, we believe we are appointed by the people. We're representing the people. We're not representing, again, big money. We're not representing Citizens United. We're representing people. We don't take donations. That's a fact. I'm sorry, we take donations, but not from, big money groups. We don't have them. We don't have billionaires giving us money and loans. We just don't have that. It's a ground up organization and political party. And in order for it to absolutely take off and be effective, we're going to need more people be involved. So that way you'll know firsthand. You don't have to just ask those questions, what we're doing. Come and be a part of it. Find out what we're doing, because we are open to the public. We are open to those kinds of involvement, that type of involvement. So we would definitely like to hear what you have to say. So the difference between any other candidate, especially red or blue, we're not tied to big money. We're not monetized like that. And the reason Dr. West left the Green Party is because he wanted to make sure he was speaking his voice and the truth, not the Green parties. He didn't want party over people. He wants people over party. That is a major difference. When you break that down and deconstruct it to really understand what that means, that he was so convicted he couldn't stay with the Green Party, even though they already had, a platform, they had a presence in several states. His conviction would not allow him to stay there because he understood, in order to do for the people, I've got to get politics out of the way.
And Rue, by the way, MC, answer this question. Did you get the link for tonight's meeting? You can either say yes or no. You should have got it. Tim Dems in the House and Tim Dems in the Senate bow to the GOP on the budget. Dems ain't loyal. That's the point. That's the point I want us to make. These Democrats in these streets. Yes, I'm doing a Tracy street talk vernacular, all incorrect. Oh well, whatever. They not loyal. They are for them streets. Whatever APAC or Big Pharma says, they're going to do. They don't care about what you think. They don't care how much you suffer. They don't care that you can't merely make your rent. They don't care. They literally don't care about you. They don't care. Stop voting against yourself. I always use this. 87% of Americans are for universal health care. Why don't we have it? Big Pharma. They would rather listen to Big Pharma giving them money than to listen to you. Stop letting them play right in front of your face. They playing in your face. They're literally telling you, we don't care. Look at what Hakeem Jeffries says. He literally said, we're not in power. What do you expect me to do? Well, I don't know. Your job would be something that your constituents that voted for you certainly expect you to, I don't know, introduce some legislation, do some kind of fight back. The only time you fight is when you're in power. I can't live off of that. I can't. And that's why I'm so passionate about the Justice for All Party. I don't believe that we're that group of people. They're just going to say, well, we're not in power, so we can't do anything. Well, give us power, so then once we get it, we won't do anything like the Democrats. I mean, literally, you were in office for 4 years. You accomplished, I can't even, maybe chips, which doesn't take effect till 2026. Maybe prescriptions, but you got to be 65. and that is until 2027. You're in power, you don't do anything. You want to get back into power so you can do nothing. I want no parts of that. I'd rather be a part of a party that listens to my voice, no matter how irritating it is. No matter how much I make the same points. Again, stop letting people play in your face. They are playing in your face. And I'm not saying they're playing in your face.
And I want to go back on something I said earlier when I was making the point about myself being an armchair quarterback. If I was being inclusive, first of all, I apologize. And I can also sense the skepticism and the consternation that people are feeling on this call based on the comments. I share those same sentiments. That's why I understood I can no longer support either of the parties of the duopoly. I had to make a different decision, a different choice. And I believe that Dr. West gave us that. And that's why I threw myself in wholeheartedly. And I have been working with his campaign for 2 years now, I believe. So I hear what you're saying. I believe I understand, what you're feeling, because you feel what I feel. Maybe not exactly, maybe not entirely, but I do sense those things.
Morgan's going to have the last word. Morgan says you want to get back into power so you can thank you, Morgan. They literally want to get back into power so they can do nothing. 4 years they let Joe Biden kick people off of Medicaid, literally no reason. You could have left all those people on Medicaid, let people continue to get the health care that they said, but you said no. Thank you, Morgan. I said I was going to have a special announcement. And everybody knows this show, it will absolutely positively continue. We'll absolutely have guests. I'm hoping to get more steering committee members on the show, which I didn't get to announce today, but I'll do that on a separate email list where I say, hey, what Saturday you want to come on? Because I want to talk to each of the steering committee members. That is going to give our audience a greater view about what it is we are doing. But June the 6th, 2025, I know that seems like it's so far away. It seems like it's far away, but it's not. It's really closer than what you think. So I'm just going to put this little announcement up. We're going to share my screen. Hopefully this comes up. Okay. So this channel will sponsor It's Time for Us to Go, the Black Voters Forum, Saturday, June the 7th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There will not be a Justice is Here podcast. Instead, that specific day, I am doing a forum. It's Time for Us to Go, Black Voters Forum. We'll be talking about why it's time for Black people to say, you know what? We tired of people playing in our face. That's what that discussion will be about. Mark it on your calendars. Invitations go out tomorrow. Now, I know who I want to be a part of this. And I would say, look for your emails. I'm specifically looking for, and I hate to say this. Well, no, I don't, because it's obvious. I want Black people a part of that discussion. If you're a Black person, Paris, and you're sick and tired of them playing in your face, you'll probably get an invitation from me. Most likely, if I know who you are, you'll get some type of invitation from me. So make sure you mark that on your calendar. I'm starting at 6 because it's going to be a special discussion. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, the invitations go out tomorrow. It's time for us to go. The Black Voters Forum. Definitely looking forward to that discussion. If you are a part of the Saturday Hangout, it's going to happen right after this show. That means I'm going to do the outro. I'm going to close this window out. I'm going to go right into that meeting. There are 9 of us registered. total, me being the 10th one, we are going to get something done. We tired. Stop letting them play in your face. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I'm going to say it one more time. Stop letting them play in your face. Parents, do you have anything that you want to say?
Other than I appreciate being on the podcast with you. And yes, we understand the fecklessness of the Democratic Party, and we understand we can't afford to be myopic and just about what we want. It has to be about what the constituency wants, and that's what we're here to fight for. We're here to fight for the people, for, of, and by the people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And join us next week because Clifton West, brother Dr. West, will be our guest next week. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you all for watching. Remember to subscribe to this channel, especially now that I'm down to 357. We need to get that number. We want to rise that number up. We want to get to that 1,000 in December. I come on the show and I say, I got my 1,000. Can't get to that million until I cross the threshold of getting up there. So we need to get this type of podcast out. Share it to your friends. Share it to your family. That cousin that you haven't talked to in 10 years. That aunt that you don't like her anyway. Share, 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 share. Comment, comment, comment. I will see you all next week. I'm taking us down to do the outro. Have a good evening. Those in the Saturday Hangout, I will see you in about 2 minutes.